The Victory Stele of Naram-Sin and the Law Code of Hammurabi were both created for powerful rulers who wished to portray themselves to their subjects as all-powerful and all-wise, but also having accomplished their deeds with the personal intervention of the gods, specifically the god Shamash of the city of Sippar. And this elevated them above being simply a king to being a god themselves. This allowed their name and deeds to serve as an ever-present reminder of their power, and long after they were laid to rest, these pieces were captured, and they served as propaganda for a foreign king. Naram-Sin's Victory Stele is carved on pink limestone. It stands about 79 inches tall. It's divided into 4 registers of scenes of a much larger event, and features 2 cuneiform inscriptions, the original in Akkadian, and one added 1,000 years later in Elamite. It's carved to resemble a mountainside, like the Zagros Mountains, where this battle took place, and depicts the Akkadian war against the Lulubi tribe of western Iran. Naram-Sin was the 4th king of the Akkadian Empire, the grandson of the great Sargon, and he ruled at the apex of the empire's power, sending military campaigns in all directions. During his reign, he faced a rebellion led by usurper kings from Kish and Uruk, who allied much of Sumer to their cause against him, but he crushed this rebellion after invoking Shamash, diverting rivers to flood their cities. He also established influence over the religious affairs by appointing his daughters as priestesses in Sippar and Ur. Naram-Sin is depicted on the stele as the most prominent character, being twice as large as everyone else. He wears a horned helmet symbolizing his godhood and wields all 3 weapons of the Akkadian army. He is depicted personally leading the army over the mountain, trampling enemies under his feet. Here, Naram-Sin's army follows him up the mountains. His common soldiers are depicted as clean-shaven, wearing kilts and conical helmets, and carrying spears and standards, while his officers are bearded and carry swords. This diverse group of people may represent the different peoples of the empire who fought on Naram-Sin's behalf. Here the enemy is defeated. Soldiers lie wounded and fall off the mountain, while others turn their feet and run, as Akkadian soldiers help themselves to the fruit of their trees. As Naram-Sin ascends the mountain with his army, his way is lit by 2 suns, possibly representing the god Shamash, indicating the god of justice has sanctioned the Lulubi's punishment. In the original inscription, Naram-Sin describes how princes of Lulubi, Sidur and Sutuni, made war against him. This may have been the reason for the battle, or could have just been invented later on to justify it. One of those enemy princes may be this figure, who, completely vanquished, turns to run from Naram-Sin, but turns around to beseech him for mercy. The stele was originally housed in Sippar and showcases the strength of Naram-Sin's army. His victory, authorized by the city's patron deity, showed that he was fit to be their king and was not to be crossed. The stele remained in Sippar for over 1,000 years, long after Agade vanished. It was seized by Shutruk-Nahunte, the king of Elam in southwestern Iran, who invaded Mesopotamia and seized several artifacts, including this stele. He brought it to his capital, Susa, and added his own inscription, glorifying his own actions and his own god, Susanak. Hammurabi was the 6th king of the First Babylonian Empire and descended from Amorite settlers from the Levant who founded the city of Babylon. He stabilized Mesopotamia and brought it under a single king once again, and is best known for his law code. Hammurabi's law code is carved out of diorite and stands 225 centimeters high. It features a carved relief scene at the top with 2 figures and thousands of lines of Akkadian cuneiform, including the laws themselves, as well as a prologue and epilogue dedicated by Hammurabi. The relief features Shamash seated on the right with a conical horned helmet, sunbeams emanating from his body, and holding a stylus. He dictates the laws to Hammurabi, standing at left, with his arm raised in reverence. In the prologue, Hammurabi introduces himself as divinely chosen to rule over the black-headed people of Sumer and Akkad, and invokes all the favors and good deeds he has bestowed on the gods and their cities, assuring them that he will rule them righteously through Marduk, Babylon's patron deity. The code features 282 laws, of which 24 are missing, and cover everything from capital offenses and property crimes to how to handle family disputes and commercial malpractice, regulates agriculture, and establishes wages for certain jobs. Most violations required some sort of restitution to be paid or the death penalty to be carried out. In the epilogue, Hammurabi expresses his hope that his law code that he personally developed with Shamash will serve Babylon's subjects long after he is gone. He warns any future kings about corrupting his words, that they will face rebellion and collapse if they do so. The Stele codified many long-standing legal practices of Mesopotamia into a single document that could be used across the cosmopolitan Babylonian Empire. It was originally kept in the temple of Shamash and Sippar, and with it, Hammurabi could bind his multicultural empire together more easily. He also ensured that his name would live on for centuries and always be associated with good kingship. Shutruk-Nahunte, the king of Elam who took the victory stele, also took Hammurabi's law code in his Mesopotamian campaign, and brought both to Susa. By taking these relics out of Mesopotamia, he effectively defeated these kings long after they had died, and turned their own works of propaganda against them. Now they would commemorate his victory, his city, and his god. The monuments would remain in Susa for the next 3,000 years. They would be discovered by Jacques de Morgan, formerly a mining engineer who later became one of France's leading archaeologists in Iran. Upon discovery, the pieces were sent to the Louvre Museum in Paris and translated, and they remain there to this day. In conclusion, these two monuments are among the grandest works of art from ancient Mesopotamia. They depict some of the most powerful kings from some of the earliest empires in history receiving divine backing for their actions and succeeding. These pieces were meant to be seen by their subjects to foster respect, loyalty, and fear. Fear that the raw power and intellect of these god kings could very easily be turned against them if they rebelled. They were works of propaganda, and their original audiences lost them when a foreign king entered the lands between the rivers and took them for himself as loot, using them to bolster his own claims to divine favor. Miraculously, though, both have survived, and they have taught us a lot about this fascinating area of the world, and the legacy of Naram-Sin and Hammurabi, for good or ill, continues thousands of years after their rule ended.